deadlifts, hip thrusts, Russian kettlebell swings, goblet reverse lunges. Alexa, play the next episode by Dr. Dre. When we're warming up for the deadlift especially, we want to think, A, get your core temperature up, as with any warm-up, and then specifically posterior chain. So your ass, your butt, your erectors, and also your core, getting that warm as well. Hamstrings, the best one I know for activation, for priming. Find one of these like small loop bands. This one is from Crossover Symmetry. They make the hip symmetry as well. I think they call it hip and core. And we have the layout somewhere around here, but this basically just goes around your knees. There's a series of about 7 or 8 exercises, and you can follow that on their mat. I tend to stick with 3 or 4, which first is side steps. The next one, call them monster walks, kind of going in and out like skaters, like you're skating. You go forward about 8 to 10 steps, and you go backwards. Usually after this one, you're starting to feel it where you're supposed to feel it, hopefully, which is your hips and your butt. From there, I'm locking out my legs, squeeze your quads, and we're kind of walking like a toy soldier. I feel like it's more like a penguin. Penguin walking on railroad tracks. You're kind of waddling, but you're not letting your feet come any closer. You're staying on those railroad tracks. So that's the 4th one. The final one, good old glute bridges. When you're at the top here, drive your knees out, back down. If you don't feel your butt light up on fire after those, I don't know. Maybe you've never worked out your butt before. But that should do it. You can go through that once, you can go through that twice, depending on where you're at and how you're feeling. One of the main points I want to hit with what we're talking about today is with the deadlift, proper setup, proper execution. We see deadlifts all the time. You probably hear a bunch of different opinions on back angle, hip angle, how low your hip should sit. It is slightly dependent on the person, but we'll go over some rough, broad strokes, how we learn it. So from the side, best way to view it, we're hitting 4 sets of 10 today. Just looking at it here. Feet start right underneath your hips. Hands are going to be right outside of your hips. From there, we'll just grab the bar. All right, we're getting a full grip on the bar, hand over hand to start right now. I usually go about a thumb's length off the bar. We're not going to pull from this position. You're going to make yourself kind of like a gorilla. It's a great cue. You can kind of visualize gorillas at the zoo. Pull your hips down, bring your chest up, and now we're here. That's not where we want to be. That's hips down, but we're not pulling our chest up. We need to activate. Boom, erectors in your back. And you're going to feel your hamstrings light up. You might feel your quads light up in that position as well. You're using both to pull off the floor. So a great cue, once we're in that setup position I like to use, is push the floor away. If we think about pulling, a lot of times we can use our back more than we need to. Our back is there to stabilize and stay in the same place. It's not there to flex and then extend. It's there to be stable for us. So pushing off the floor immediately gives you a cue through your feet and through your legs. So we get in the setup position, push, and up. On the way back down, hips go back, drop down to that same position. Next thing we'll look at with the deadlift, once we have our setup dialed in, you might see some people pull. I mentioned overhand grip, or they might switch their grip. Why do we do that? And which hand do you flip? Which hand do you flip is whatever one feels more comfortable to you. I don't know if it depends on if you're right-handed or if you're left-handed. I have no idea. I'm right-handed. it feels more comfortable for me to go underhand in my right, overhand in my left when I'm pulling heavy weight. This isn't particularly heavy, but for higher reps, it can get quite grippy, which if you're training that, go overhand. You're going to get more of a training stimulus for your grip if you're going double overhand. If you want to limit your grip and strengthen up how long you can hold on to this bar or how much weight you can hold on to it, go the over and the under. The reason for that being, see, you know, a barbell spin, right? So if you have two overhand grips on the bar and you're pulling and then you're on your 12th rep or whatever, heavy weight, that starts to go, that bar starts to spin potentially, and you start to lose it, right? Also, if it's a heavy 1 rep max lift, you can't quite hold on because your grip is losing, that bar spinning. You go over under, now you're spinning it this way, now you're spinning it this way, you're more locked into that barbell. You're going to get more tension off of the floor, right? So that's why you go over and under on one. So we'll just go after our second set here. Keeping it pretty light today. 4 sets of 10. This is the field pump. I'm going to go 135, 165. We'll see 185 and then 205 on that 4th set. And we'll just try, it is lighter, so I'll try to minimize our rest between. There's also the question of, should I drop the deadlift at the top of the rep? If you've ever listened to Mark Ripito, he did starting strength, kind of a bigger name in the strength community. There's a video of him. That person asked that question. I can't remember who asked it. Some guy getting trained by him at the moment. And he's like, so can I drop the deadlift at the top? The rep is done at the top. He goes, dropping the rep at the top? That's for pussies. So as much as I can, I try not to drop the rep at the top. Right? We don't want to drop reps at the top. But honestly, if there's deadlifts in like Metcons and stuff, I drop the rep at the top a lot. It's not a big fucking deal. However, there's always more to talk about with it. If the goal is building strength, or Mark Ripito's most famous book is Starting Strength. So how do you start with strength? It's a lot of 5x5, sets of 5x5. The reasoning behind his, you're a pussy if you drop it at the top. When you're going down, that's eccentric loading. Come right back up. Eccentric loading. The eccentric loading throughout movements, whether it's back squat, deadlift, bench press, that does the most muscle damage. Therefore, it creates the most potential change in your muscle to get stronger. So his reasoning, how I interpreted it as, it's not just like an ego thing, don't drop your rep because it's lazy. There's probably some of that, but you're building strength by going through that eccentric phase. So if you skip out on it, you're skipping out on strength. You're leaving gains in the dirt. Even if it's the 5th rep, you're taking it back down and setting the rep down if the goal is building strength. If you're in CrossFit and the goal is to move faster, well, and you're at 225 weight, you're doing Diane 21-15-9, you have a set of 9, and that 9 is touch and go at this point. It'd be very hard for you. Drop, right? Because conversely, as good as the eccentric phase is for building strength, it's also very taxing and tiring. So once you're on that 9th set of 9 for Diane, for example, going down, you might just be dropping, falling down anyway because your muscles are so taxed and your hamstrings and your butt. So there's always something to think about. I lied. We're going to do 165, 185, 215, I don't know, maybe 235 or so for our 4 sets of 10. That's not going to be a near max. 235 would probably be like, I'm not good at math, but somewhere between 70 and 80% probably for a set of 10, which would be appropriate. Sticking to 135, 165, 185, 205, even on a day where I'm not super uppity, isn't going to do me any favors. I'm just going to be going through the motions. I don't want to do that. I want to make a change. Even if it's a small change, I'm going to make it. Make that fucking change. it might be a good t-shirt. Okay, 215. There I go, dropping it. There's through 10s on top, so this will be 235 for the final set of 10, which will be, I don't know, somewhere 70-80% or so. Probably closer to 70. Dropping it. Old habits die hard. You can't overlook the deadlift for how good of a back exercise it is too. I said in the beginning, your back is there to be a stabilizer, or your big erector muscles in the back keeping you stable throughout the movement, and also through your thoracic spine. Even then from there, from your cervical, how much load your thoracic is still stabilizing and holding. There's no bent over row. There's no pull down machine, no weighted pull up, no amount of pull ups that you can load your back like you can with a deadlift. So in that respect, it's an insanely good back exercise for building stability and strength. But we also want to be mobile too. There's always something else, right? If you only deadlift your whole life, you'll probably be stiff as a board after 30 years. Because you're constantly staying flexed or constantly holding tension in that one position. That's why things like GHD hip extensions, GHD back extensions, stuff like weird stuff like Jefferson curls, working in different planes of movement. Anyway, that's a whole other discussion. Just saying, deadlifts, insanely good for upper back as well. But primarily hamstring exercise, right? All right, Scout. Next piece is we're just doing 3 rounds for quality. We have 15 barbell hip thrusts and 10 heavy kettlebell swings. If I could go heavier with this kettlebell swing, I would. I might double up on 235s just to get a little bit extra weight, so 1 in each hand. But the heaviest one I have at home here is 53, which just for 10 heavy swings isn't all too much. So maybe 235s, at least getting 70 pounds swinging would be better. But we'll start with 53. We're going to go 15 and 10 just for quality, good movement. Rest a minute or two in between. Got 185 on the bar. Are you trying to help? You want some attention? Oh, I know what you want. You want up? Come here. Up. 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 Not on me. Up here. Up here. Good boy. Can you sit? Can you sit? Yeah. There he goes. All right, let's go. Oh my good God. We took a short fetch break, so now he's still trying to fucking play. I'm trying to do my 3rd set though. Can I do it? Yeah? Alright. I'll throw it, then I'm going. All right, last piece today is just 4 sets of 12 goblet, reverse lunges. It's just a finisher. Should be a pretty short rest in between. It's only 12 total, so 6 per leg. So I'm gonna go with a 53. It's the heaviest one I have, but just for 6 reps, go as heavy as you can. You're gonna be hitting something like this. You know, there's some elements to good programming in your gym or a gym that you go to. Good elements you should think about, whatever you're training for. If you're training for physique versus performance, or something that's gotten a big rise lately is functional bodybuilding, or kind of like a hybrid athlete type of training where you're still doing conditioning, but you're doing a lot of strength work and maybe what classical bodybuilding used to look like, higher reps, stuff like that, is looking at just movement pattern. No matter what you're doing, movement pattern, right? You're doing more bodybuilding, you could isolate muscles more, etc. But base movement patterns, get the big building blocks in first. So each day, lower body day, if you're doing lower body pull, like we are today, or posterior chain, we did 4 sets of 10 deadlift, and we went 3 rounds for quality, 15 hip thrusts, 10 kettlebell swings. So both of those movements, all 3 of those movements, both feet were on the floor. We were hinging in the deadlift. We were hinging in the kettlebell swing. Hip thrust, a little bit different, but hitting the same musculature in the hamstrings and the glutes. So all those are fairly similar. So how can we break that movement up but still hit the muscles that we want, the posterior chain? Well, lunges, right? So we can start breaking up unilateral versus bilateral. And that's something to think about and look at in your programming is getting unilateral work in as well as bilateral work. And sometimes that switches. We often think strength work can only be bilateral. It can only be deadlift. It can only be back squat. It can only be bench press with two firmly on the floor. It's not true. We could do barbell reverse lunges for heavy ass weight. We could do weighted suitcase lunges going forward, heavy ass weight, and that's unilateral strength work. It doesn't have to be always that bilateral, both feet on the ground. We're just pulling. We're doing sets of 10. Next week we're doing sets of 8, and that's all we're doing, right? Breaking up your legs, working out any imbalances you might have, whether it's calculated or not, is great. It's going to just boost those big lifts even more. It's going to boost your deadlift more, bench, press, squat, whatever it might be. That's it. That's deadlift day. Lower body day, that was actually a field pump. We had deadlifts, hip thrusts, Russian kettlebell swings, goblet reverse lunges. We're gonna hit a few stretches. We're gonna go play some ball, play some fetch. There you go. And we'll get out of here and enjoy the Saturday. Hope you do the same.